All right, the Colorado Avalanche drop game 2 to the Dallas Stars. The series is now tied at 1, and this game was the epitome of the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll talk about it all. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
Your Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Make sure you're following us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram, and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions. LockedOnAvalanche@gmail.com, and follow us on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. And make sure you are subscribed to our subtext as well. Link to that's in the show notes below. When you do, chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. We get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, which we share on this wonderful, beautiful podcast, which is a little bit gloomy. The Avs obviously lost game 2, but they made it interesting. I mean, you can pull stuff out of this, but the thing with me, Kyle, is like, why are you putting yourself in that position? Like, again, you did it in game 1. You pulled it off in game 1. You don't want to keep doing that. And then in game 2, you even gave them an extra goal. Now you got to climb out of a 4-0 hole. The Avs almost did it. And if they had, it would have been just a miracle of all miracles. But it was a lot to ask and almost too much to ask. And you know, they made it interesting, but a lot to get to with this game. Most of it, you kind of want to, bury it 6 feet underground.
Yeah, it's one of those that if I was a cocky Avs fan with burgundy and blue glasses, you'd be like, "Oh, they're just toying with their opponent." They had 2 good periods in game 1 and 1 good period in game 2. Like they're seeing how little they can get away with. But no, when you watch the first 2 periods, the Avs did themselves no favors with just their play, the momentum. I'll give credit to Dallas. They came out and they gave every bit of effort they had. They kept the momentum going. They were pressuring. They were pushing. They were doing all the right moves, and the Avs were just slow to respond for the first 2 periods. And then they have that patented Jared Bednar intermission, and they come out in the third on fire, but too late.
Yeah, it just seemed like Dallas was they were the team that was finding open ice, finding open shots, finding good quality shots, while on the other end making the Avalanche really work for their shots in this game. Where in game 1, I don't want to say it came easy for the Avalanche, but they were the ones that were kind of like opening up and had a lot of good looks. And it was just a total opposite in this game, on top of like these mistakes that the Avalanche are making, which we'll get to. I wanted to see, because like those first couple periods, would they have shots on goal for the first couple periods?
So they were down in the first 2 periods, and it was
tied at 9 in the first, and then they only had another 9 in the second. Then they ramped it up and had 13. They ended up with 31, but a lot of those shots, I'm bringing up Money Puck right now just to see like the quality of those shots, because I haven't looked at this yet. I'm just looking at it for the first time right now. I'm just assuming they're not. I mean, maybe some good high danger chances in that third period, which they had 2. So 2 high danger chances, 6 medium high danger chances. So 34 low danger shot attempts. So that's you're going to have more low than anything else, and that's okay, because those are the shots that get deflected, maybe get a rebound. But they just couldn't get anything really going, I thought, offensively. I thought Dallas did a great job clogging up the neutral zone. As soon as they would gain the line, if they gain the line, there's multiple guys there right on whoever's bringing it in. The dumping and chasing just was not working in this game, where that was working in game 1. I don't want to say it's back to the drawing board, but this is where the Jared Bednar, makes small adjustments here and there, should come into play for game 3. And because I think they wanted to just take what worked in game 1 and just replay that.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that, but I'm also like, you can't just blindly do that because the other team lost and they're preparing for that now. So we'll see where game 3 goes. But this one, like I said, they made it interesting, but it took you so long to get there. It's just you throw your hands up and be like, I can't figure out why it took so long to do that.
And it's one of those, the Avalanche have their game plan. They formulate it before the game and they kind of stick to it. A lot of times it pays off. And a game like this, it did not. That third period was basically everybody just do what you have to. And the first 2 periods, you just weren't getting clean passes. Dallas was getting their stick out in front of everything. They were making everything just uncomfortable. Passing, positioning, said, like, the dumping and chasing did not work, so you're just seeing just freight trains attack that blue line and just try and gain the offensive zone. And it's one of those that you kind of feel good as an Avalanche fan that even if you're sticking to your game plan, it's still good enough to rattle you off at least 3 goals in a period at any given time. But when a team like Dallas is rattling off that physicality and the refs aren't in your favor and everything's against you, momentum, home ice, everything, you still have a fighting chance. So you tweak a little bit, you give a little bit more, I don't know, come out with a little bit more fire in game 3, and things are sitting well, but it just didn't match up well in the first 2 periods of game 2.
And I think, the hardcore Dallas Stars fan won't admit to it, but they were sweating.
Yeah.
They were sweating. And again, I wasn't sitting like it got close. I mean, they pulled within 1 and then they gave up the empty net goal, which pretty much sealed the deal. So all the cards are on the table. Anything could have happened. But now hindsight 2020, I'm sure those hardcore fans would be like, oh yeah, I was in the bag. But deep down, they were sweating. So you take that. You take and say, hey, we didn't just phone it in. I saw a lot of people saying, don't even put Georgiev out there in the third. Don't even put him out there. You're down 4-0. Let him rest. And to be honest, I was on the fence of that. I wasn't just solely like, yeah, 100% do it. I would have understood it if they had done it. But I wasn't just going right there because I just think it's different. If this was regular season game, probably.
Yeah.
And I guess the argument could be the same for postseason for some people, but it's not for me. I feel like you play your guy, you play your best guys, live and die with your best guys, and see what happens. And this is what happened. This is why going forward now, you won't do that because you twice now you have made a comeback on this team. You won one of them, you came up short in another one, but it's still stuff that you can get behind going forward, and that never out of it mentality holds true. So again, I know it's a small token prize, but it is there, and it is something to continue on, and for game 3 and 4 and beyond, it is something you look back on and say, hey, we're never out of these games.
And it's one of those, when the Pull Georgiev comments were circulating, this is the playoffs. This is a best of 7. You want Georgiev to get himself out of it. And in that third period, he did. He did what you needed him to do. That one goal for Dallas was an empty netter. So, he did.
I don't think he played a bad game.
And he didn't.
I thought he played a great game. Most of those goals really weren't his fault.
And he was making good saves when it counted.
Yes, he was.
I liked his game. Even as down as I was on Georgiev earlier, towards the end of the season, he's been relatively good in games 1 and 2. So keep him out there. It's not I guess if you're having the conversation of risk of injury, I understand, but he had to get himself out of that, and the team needed to rally around him. It worked well in game 1 of the Winnipeg series. Why is it not working well now? He was fine. He's not the problem.
No, I thought he was. That game could have been an 8-0 score if not for Georgiev. He kept it as best he could to where it was, and the Avs just weren't generating anything on offense for him to help him out. You mentioned an injury thing, and my mind immediately goes to Jamie Benn and the hit on Devon Toews. It's a big topic of conversation right now, and we're going to tackle that. We're going to get our first break in, and we come back, we'll talk about that. And then some just dumb mistakes that the Avalanche decided to make in this game, which you say make or break it. Could have. You look back and the comeback they made, you don't make those dumb mistakes. Maybe you take this thing to overtime. Who knows? All right, let's get our first break in. We come back, we'll discuss the Jamie Benn hit. All right, let's hear from Policygenius. It's the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. And with Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. And some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. With Policygenius, you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help you talk you through it. Talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step, and your life insurance policy may not offer enough protection for your family's needs. And even worse, it may not come with you if you leave your job. And Policygenius, it gives you unbiased advice from a licensed expert support team. So check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. So head to policygenius.com/lockedonnhl or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quote and see how much you could save with Policygenius at policygenius.com/lockedonnhl. So the topic of conversation is going to be a lot of things, but I think at the top of that list will be the Jamie Benn hit on Devon Toews. You can have the discussion, excuse me, on if you thought it was a clean hit or a dirty hit. Those conversations go on all the time when you have hits like this. It's usually divided down party lines, and if you're an Avalanche fan, you felt like it was a dirty hit, and if you're a Stars fan, you felt like it was pure as the driven snow. And the fact that they did the whole calling it a major so they can review it, and then they come back and say nothing at all. Let me get your take on it, and then I'll throw mine out there, and then the lack of response from the Avalanche. We'll talk about that too.
Ooh, my favorite part. No, I like that everybody is getting upset over a dirty hit from Jamie Benn. Like, come on.
Par for the course, people. I mean, this is
Did anybody not listen to our preview of the series and all the lead up? We kind of warned you this was coming. It's the same thing. You don't play the Rangers and not expect something from Trouba. It's you know what's going to happen, and it happened. And I was clean or dirty. I mean, it didn't help that there was another green shirt back there, and it made it look like a wrestling move. But and just the way Taser went down was not great at all.
No.
And I don't think he was 100% the rest of the game. But for them to not call anything on it, I thought that was a little silly. But rack that up with the rest of the silly non-calls and calls in the game, and that was par for the course. But it's Jamie Benn. You expect that to happen. I expected it to happen deeper in the series, but he got it out of the way. So I don't think I'm going to be sitting well with it. And then it's one of those that you wait for the dust to clear, everybody to wake up the next day, and you see what the health of Devon is. But
yeah, that's key to see how he feels, the next morning. But for me, like, I'm of the mind of just because you can does not mean you should.
Yeah.
And if you can slow it down and we can go frame by frame and be like, oh, good thing he had his elbow tucked. Thank you for doing that, Jamie Benn. But, this whole like super slow-mo where we're just going frame by frame. It's like, oh, well, he got him in the shoulder for the chest first. Really? I mean, if he got him in both, he hit him simultaneously, I feel. That stuff I put to the side. It's just the intent was to hurt him. You can't tell me that it wasn't. When you're skating that fast and you leave your feet, he left his feet. He didn't, jump like Jacob Trouba did the other day. But he leaves his feet, and so he's going up And he wants to hurt him. He wants to cause physical harm. And I'm just not about, like, you can play the game rough and you can play the game hard and you can check guys properly. And the whole, like, well, you got to keep your head up. Devon Toews is playing the puck. How are you going to keep your head up when you're playing a puck? Tell me how anybody in the world, tell me how you're doing that. How are you? Because if you're looking up, you can't play the puck. It's not how the game works. So that whole comment of, keep your head up is just bogus. And it's just a cop out for people who want to justify the hit. Do I think he should have got, like, thrown out for it? I'm not going that far. Should there have been a penalty? Of course. That's a 2-minute, whatever you want to call it, charging, roughing, whatever you want to call it. Could have, no, I'm not going to go that far, but I just don't like the intent, because he's already, like you said, there's a guy there. There's already a guy with him that he's kind of battling with. So, you can separate Devon Toews from that puck and not take that route that Jamie Benn took. But like you said, it's Jamie Benn. I expect nothing less from him because that's the kind of player he is.
And it stings even more that the momentum, like, solidifier, and
It was big.
Yeah, and it was
Absolutely.
that was a big shift, and for it to be on Devon Toews, it stings a little bit more because he's a vital piece of the team, and for nothing to happen afterwards was a little interesting.
I mean, that's so I think what people wanted was just drag him out of off of the bench and just have an old-fashioned, bare knuckle brawl. If you watched, the Avs did take a couple lighthearted runs at him, and I think that was like their message to him. It wasn't going to be this big show, and that the play stops and you got two people duking it out. They're not going to go that route, and I think that's just. I think maybe they're protecting their own players from doing that. Who knows if you get an injury? Remember Nathan McKinnon did that? It was a couple of years ago, and he injured his hand. So I don't think the Avalanche are going to go that route. But you saw Cale Makar took a run at him, like a little extra check on him. Josh Manson did a couple times, and even kind of like threw him into his own bench once, which was hilarious because Jamie Benn got up, tried to be tough man, realized it was Josh Manson, and then had a flashback to when he got laid out. And he was like, can a ref get in front of me, please? Because I don't want to go any further than I have to. So they didn't respond the way that the typical fan wants them to respond. But they did just give little light jabs here and there, which is not going to satisfy the fan base. It's not going to.
And, honestly, I think that could be the theme of Game 2, was the Avalanche just did not respond accordingly. Whether it's the Jamie Benn hit or the goals that Dallas secured, especially in that second, there was just not the proper level of response. Yes, they eventually did, but not to the level they needed to win, and not to the level to honestly push back on that momentum, because from that point forward, you felt like the Avs were on their heels, and it took that third period to finally catch back up after an intermission. But in those kind of moments, that's where you push back. We're not asking for a Boston, Florida, just wrestling match, that goofy stuff. We're asking just for a response to push back on that momentum, because if Dallas feels like they could push you around, guess what Game 3 is going to be like? When they don't have home ice behind them, they don't have the crowd behind them, they're going to resort to that physicality. And if they feel like they can get away with it, it's going to be more the rule instead of the exception.
And I think another reason why the Avs didn't do it right away is look. I mean, you do it right then and there, or you do it like the next shift or something like that. And if it's Josh Manson and he gets a misconduct and he's out, I'm not saying he's the reason for the comeback, but there's a lot of game left to be played, and you're down a guy now, and it's that much more difficult to mount a comeback. If it was still 4-0 and there's like a minute left in the game, maybe then you do it. But I think the Avalanche are more just kind of mindful of how they go about this thing and not just be the Bruins and the Panthers. And I mean, that game was really, really out of hand. But I wonder if it was still 4-0, like I said, with about a minute to go, do they then say, all right, now's our time to, all right, now we're gonna set a tone here for game 3 and maybe drop some gloves. Could have been, but you can't do it early, because if they kick that guy out, you're completely doomed for any comeback attempt.
And at that time, you didn't know the health of Toews, and he went to the locker room, so you'd be theoretically down 2 players. So
Exactly right.
You're really not helping your case at all.
Right. Exactly. So he'll get the business from the Ball Arena crowd, every time he touches the puck. Not that really, I'm sure it doesn't matter to him at all. But they'll let him have it. And I think the hits on him will continue. And even after Dallas scored a goal, and they were celebrating, I think was it Cogliano or maybe Lehkonen just kind of gave him like an elbow.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that you're going to get from the Avalanche. So you just got to kind of live with that. All right, a couple more things to get to. We'll talk about these penalties because they doomed them. Just stupid penalties. And of course, we have our sound check, which we have to get to as well. So let's take our last break, and we'll do that on the other side. All right, Indeed. There's no I in team, but of course there is one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform you need to build yours. And when you're hiring, you need Indeed. It's the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring platform that can help you do it all. We streamline hiring with powerful tools and find you matched candidates. Whoa, hold on. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed data. So start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/locked-on. Offer is good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/locked-on. Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. And if you need to hire, then you need Indeed. So here's the other part of what Jamie Benn did. Just is apparently okay. And I'm not excusing the Avalanche here, people. Like, penalties are penalties are penalties. But they had too many men on the ice multiple times, and they had delay of game penalties too many times. When you have 4 penalties that are not of a reason of a hit or a trip, or take your pick of any other penalty, those are self-inflicted wounds. Those are self-inflicted, that you do those to yourself. They are penalties. They are what they are. They're in the rule book, and you got to abide by that rule book. But that kills you. You can't have those penalties. I mean, mistakes happen in the game of hockey all the time. But when you have those penalties, the delay of games, I get that sometime you're trying to clear a puck and it just goes off your stick wrong. But the too many men penalties, I just can't for the life of me. I can't accept those. I can't. Those are the worst.
That's how you know the Avs are in playoff hockey mode. If they're getting too many men on the ice penalties, the Avs are sitting A-OK. And with delay of game penalties, I had a flashback. I was like, oh God, when did we trade for Bo Byerman? But, and honestly, bringing up the self-inflicted wounds, like, 2 of those were converted by Heiskanen, and those were power play goals. We'd be having a different conversation, a different tone with that third period from the Avs, and it'd be a 3-2 win instead of a 4-3. Well, 5-3 with the empty netter.
Those are just the things that it's funny because listening to a lot of Av players and coaches, even after game 1 and the day off as well, a lot of them said, they were happy with how they played. But a lot of what they went over for those 2 days, that one day, was just tightening up on the details, tightening up on the little things. And, and they would never say what it is. And I get that. You don't want to tip your hand and the other team is listening. In my head, I'm like, yeah, I get that. That's every game. There's little adjustments here and there, little things, make a big difference. How are you doing this then? If in your day off, if you are focusing on the minor details and just the little things that give you an edge, how is this an oversight? How is it not coming off the bench, when you're not supposed to? Like hockey 101 for you at this stage in the game, and you did it twice. Come on, guys.
You're missing the little thing they worked on. They won the face-off battle tonight.
No, did they? I didn't even look at that yet.
Yes, they won by 35-34 Colorado.
It was 50.7% to 49.3.
Boom.
Boom.
Little wins. And
boom. Eat that.
Outshot, out hit, won faceoffs. Those are the little things they were working on. When it comes to delay of game off the scoreboard, which is apparently a thing, and too many men on the ice, we'll work on that coming back to Ball Arena.
I don't know. That was obviously a little bit frustrating to get those penalties. And they had how many total power? So they had 5, did Dallas.
They were 2 for 5, and Colorado was 0 for 3.
0 for 3, and that one at the end of the game, like you were feeling so good, man. Like you got a little bit of a cut, not a little bit. Like you got the momentum, and then they commit a penalty, and I gotta say, man, like if it wasn't for that penalty, you have no, you're just pulling the goalie, but you felt like, wow, Dallas is really reeling right here. And they even committed a penalty, but you couldn't get anything off of it. And Dallas did a great job with their penalty kill. A great job. They gave the Avs nothing.
And at the end, American Airlines Arena was silent. It was Winnipeg silent. Like you had everything in your favor and you couldn't convert on that power play. That was a big one. That was a big one.
Huge. A couple messages from subtext. Kyle says, sloppy. Shot ourselves in the foot. Ice remains garbage. And again, more people were just falling out of nowhere. Dallas seems to get all the puck luck, play a more disciplined game, and we won't have to attempt a large comeback. Mikko has been coasting out there. We might need to call Lecky's dad. I think you've mentioned that a couple episodes ago too. So.
Coasting is generous.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Is this going to be one of those things when the season's over? We Mikko was hurt for the playoffs.
Yeah, he was playing with broken ribs and 2 broken legs all playoffs.
Yeah. Heather says 1-1 heading home on the winningest home team. I'm okay with that. Georgiev did great and happy to see that yet again. Our depth showed up. Keep it going, boys. I love the positivity, Heather. And you lose, it sucks. And you pull the positives out where you can, and there are some in this game. But again, I go back to, if you're making minor adjustments, you got to do that all over again and add the most of basic things that you should not be doing in that list. Seriously, at this stage of the game, we have to add those into that list.
Counting and keeping the puck on the ice. Cool.
I guess we do. All right. Last bit of business, and that is our Locked On Avalanche sound check. And this is where we both pick a song, put it up on a playlist over on Spotify, which you can follow along with. Just search LOA Soundcheck Volume number 3. These songs can be found on. What do you got for this one, sir?
Easy. And the perfect way to summarize this and how I'm going to be watching the social media. This is going to be Clean My Wounds from Corrosion of Conformity.
Ooh. Okay.
Great song, great band. But after you saw what happened to Taser and Cale Makar towards the end of that game, and I'm interested to see what the injury report's going to be, what the health of Drouin is, because I know he's skating.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep. What this team's going to look like when they return to Denver, and what the health is coming out of that terrible game 2. They need to clean their wounds, get back to Avalanche hockey, and I'm curious to see what the team and the Lions look like.
There we go.
That was,
I don't know why I went. I didn't know if I took my glasses off or if my vision just went blurry.
You
there
needed like your witness voice, like, but no, but I'm just curious what this team's going to look like heading into game 3, and what Kale and Toews look like.
You know what today is, man? Today, if you're listening to this on the day that it's out on Friday, today's May 10th. So today's the 1-year anniversary of Gabe Landeskog having his surgery done. So he could come back at any point. He's fair game now. We still don't think it's going to happen. I'm just saying. They were waiting the year. Today is the year. So get him out there. Just get him. No, I'm kidding.
Chris McFarland, don't listen to Chris Maselli, please.
Get him out there, have him knock out Jamie Benn, and then he can just take the rest of the summer off. Anyway, my track, I'm kind of, it's a little bit twofold. I picked it to kind of, just take a jab at Jamie Benn, but it also can go towards everything we were just talking about with these dumb mistakes and dumb penalties. And that is, the song is SOB from Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats. Wonderful song. Denver band too. Town of Denver. Yeah.
Impossible to sit still during that song. It is
so good.
Jam.
So good. And yeah, I think, you're right. That, like, that changed the tone. That hit changed the tone of the game. And we will see if the Avs can take it back. I'm happy that this next game is going to be on home ice, because if that hit happened in game 1 and they're still rallying around that on home ice, like, it just takes a different tone if it was still in Dallas on game 2, if that happened in game 1. Now going to Ball Arena, that crowd's going to get on them. That crowd will get on them more than the Avalanche really did. So, but yeah, that's my track for you, Jamie Benn. You're an SOB. All right, that's going to wrap it up for today, everyone. We are planning on, we got a weekend game. We know we don't typically do weekend shows, but it's the playoffs, so all bets are off.
Playoffs?
So after that game on Saturday, we are planning on recording after that, unless it goes like quadruple overtime and we need to get some sleep. So we'll see. All right, until then, thank you, everybody, for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. For Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan, I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. And we'll see you after game 3.